Y'all, welcome back to the Ben Barker Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in today. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a review, share this with a dad or a human that you think this might be encouraging to. Today's episode is brought to you by the Neighborhood Alpha Dad tank top, guaranteed to increase your testosterone and make you look twice as jacked. Welcome back to my brother-in-law, my friend, Kyler Harris. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? What's up?
Man, good to have you back, dude. Today I just kind of wanted to chop it up and talk about why it's important for dads to strive for greatness.
Yeah, most definitely. I think just striving for any goal is honorable, right? Regardless of if it's
100%.
around your peers and they see you do it, or specifically just your family, right? Either way. So, um, you wanting something and going after it, one is good for your mental health. I think everybody needs it, right? I think we talked about that in the last one. That challenge is really where that mental health sits at. You need challenge. So I believe that it's important.
Something that I thought about yesterday or on our previous podcast was I heard somebody talk about like all these guys, you make all this money. And I think everybody has this concept in their mind that they're going to retire and like lay on a beach and do nothing once they make all this money. And I was listening to a guy and he
Right.
did it. He made all the money and he was laying on the beach and he was miserable because he's a doer. He's like
Yeah.
you and me. He was like, I did it. I made the money. I didn't have to do anything, but I was bored. And I think there's
Yeah.
like something about always having something to strive for, just like we talked about with fitness goals.
Yeah. I don't know where that concept came from because you look at just regular everyday people, right? Not someone who's like hyper successful, but just people who just like my father, right? He just retired out
Yep.
of education, right? He's a very successful father, very successful football coach, but he retires and then now he's bored, right? So it's like regardless, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter your success or how much money you've made. When you get, you still want something, like you still want something to go after.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Bro, and I've noticed something too. I feel like people age faster when they don't have something to do. Like you'll watch guys, if
Oh
you
yeah,
watch guys who continue working like in their 60s and 70s, I feel like they look younger than dudes who retire and like they just like sit in their recliner and like watch TV, which is obvious. You know, you get into like muscle atrophy and stuff because you're not doing anything.
yeah, for sure. The sitting around not doing anything, one, right? But two, I think that when you do have some type of mental focal point, right? It's everything that happens to our body in aging is chemical, right? It's all chemical response. So if you're not getting something that's giving you the correct dopamine releases or whatever, you start to get to this point to where you just age faster. Think about a day that you just stayed home, right? You're like, oh man, I'm not feeling it today, and you stayed home all day. You felt worse. The very next day, you felt
Yes.
sluggish, you felt terrible. And then a day that maybe you're like, man, I worked my butt off today. For whatever reason, the start of that week was really good, right? It's odd how that happens.
Yeah, you're right, dude. I don't know how we change that stigma, but it's so funny that you bring that up because, like, every once in a while, you're like, you know what? I deserve this. I'm gonna watch Netflix all day and like order
Yeah.
DoorDash, and you feel like garbage at the end of the day. Whereas I'm sure, like, some days, I know you like when you work a full shift and like adrenaline is going and stuff, you probably still feel good after you've crushed a day.
Yeah.
Tired, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah. I think that, right. I think aside from the lack of sleep, right, I feel very mentally there,
Yep.
right? I'm super engaged. And
Yep.
plus, whenever I'm gone for 2 days, right, at a time, there is stuff that's hitting my phone that I need to be here for. I can't respond to over the phone. So when I get back, it's like I'm kickstarted right into getting some things done that need to be accomplished. So um, I don't know. It's
100%.
kind of like you get the reins held back on you on for a little bit, and then you come back and get to fire away. But when I'm gone, I'm
Yep.
not chilling. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm coming back and I'm super lethargic. I come back and I've been working already, so I'm
Yep.
just working more.
Whew. Hey, do you listen to Ed Milet?
I don't.
Okay, so Ed Milet's awesome, and he's also a believer, and just incredible, like high performer. Um, and he talks about like sometimes people will like have like a dead end job that they hate, but they stay with it because they're like, I've got to do this for my family. But he's like,
Oh yeah.
wouldn't it be better for your kids to see you chase your dreams? And it's
Yeah.
like, there is a balance there. Like you have
Yeah.
to
No.
provide for your family. Like at the same times, like, do you want your kids to be like, I saw my dad like lay down and hate his life, or I saw my dad like go for gold? And I think there's a message in there about fitness, faith, relationships, finances, like all of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that too many people often just rely on the number, right? How much they're actually going to make, rather than as if they're then relying on the fulfillment side, right? If you rely on fulfillment,
Yeah.
it doesn't just fulfill you personally, but it fulfills the people around you because of the attitude and the perspective that you're putting out, right? That it's not
Yep.
it's not financial freedom, right, that you're looking for. It's really not financial freedom. It's not. What it is it's something that you enjoy
Yep.
doing, right? Joy inside the word
Yep.
enjoy. Joy is something that we see in the Bible all the time, right? It's always talking about joy. And I think that there are things that you do that you don't want to do, right? That those things are specific for your family and for your faith, right? But when it comes to finances, we don't worship money. So the fact that you need money shouldn't be doing something that you don't want to do. It should be do something that you enjoy to do, right? Like it's Colossians 3:23, right? I believe that's a guess. I think that's right though. Colossians 3:23 is talking about
You keep talking.
do
I'll look it
everything
up.
that you're doing as if you're doing it for, yeah, do everything that you're doing as if you're doing it for the Lord, right?
I love that verse.
And the joy that's behind it, right, is the fact that this is what He wants out of me, right, rather than this is what I need financially.
So, first of all, good call because you were correct. Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters.
Let's go, right? So I
Let's
think
go.
that in itself, right, makes it pretty simple for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If you're doing something because of just the money itself, right? I don't believe you're doing that for the Lord. And that's not taking a
Yep.
shot to anybody that's doing it there. I think that you might just be misdirected, or
Yep.
find some way in that work life that you're in to have an avenue that's for God. And to be for God, it's just for people. That's what He put us on earth for, was to praise Him and to love others. Right? So if you can find
Yep.
some way to make your profession something that is for people, right? It's you're caring and loving on other people. I think that you're going to hit that fulfillment side that you're looking for.
100%. And I do think I hate the word season. I don't know why. I just like they're like, oh, I'm in a season. I don't know why I hate that, but it is a thing. And I do think there's probably
Yeah.
times in your life where you might be stuck doing something you don't like. And I think when you're in that situation, it's like you do it wholeheartedly as for the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing wrong with looking for a better situation. It's just like while you're there, serve with all you've got, like you're serving God. And then I think it's also that's where the side hustle comes in, and you build it until you're able to make that your full-time thing.
Yeah, most definitely. And I don't think that necessarily, even if the job isn't something that you would ideally want to be doing, I don't think that there's any job that you can't find something in it, one aspect of it that is for people, right? That it's to help people.
Yep.
So just focus on that aspect. And if that's the reason you're doing it, and you can really, like in here, that's what it's for, then you're going to find some fulfillment out of it. But if it's just about the dollar amount, inevitably you're going to be unfulfilled. There's a lot of really sad billionaires, right? So
Yep.
I don't think if you keep focusing on money, right, that you're going to find the joy that you're looking for.
100%. And I think it's kind of cool also to talk about the flip side of that. I think people are seeing what I'm doing right now and are like, man, that must be the dream. You don't have like a set schedule. You get to do what you want when you want. And I think people probably assume the same thing about you being a gym owner. Like, got it made in the shade, Kyler, just living like the good life. But I think you also got to
Yeah.
throw it out there, guys. Like when you go the full entrepreneur route, it's hard. And I'm sure you can attest to that too,
Scary.
managing lots of people, members, um, paying people, paying them well, treating them well, and then also providing for your family is a challenge. And there's beauty in a W-2 job, in like the
Yeah.
safety, and then there's beauty in the freedom with being an entrepreneur. But I'm sure you can speak a little bit on the difficulties that come along with taking that step.
Yeah. Even though it's something that I wanted to do, right? There's no way you can get to the point to where there's some comfortability in there without lots of hardship, right? And
Yep.
to quote Denzel Washington, right? Denzel was ease is a greater threat to joy than hardship, right? And if it's super easy most of the time, there's not a bunch of joy that's going to follow it, right? But if you work hard at something and you're doing it for the right reasons and then it happens, right? Man, how happy are you? Like it's just like the greatest
Yep.
feeling in the world. And so even though it is something that you want to do, but it's like, man, it's so far fetched or it's going to be really difficult to get it to a point of comfortability, right? Or financial safety, whatever, which I don't think there's ever financial safety in entrepreneurship, but if to just to
Yep.
think to get it close enough to that, you're going to have to go through the hardship, right? So the first 2 years of me working was me working, right? I had team members, but I was working like a dog. And we've gotten to a point now to where I have the best team I've ever had. I mean, by far. We've got 9 coaches in Tahlequah. We've got full-time staff members. Like it's to the best that we've ever had. We've got full-time people in Muskogee now to the point that I can take some time away and I can work on a business rather than in it. But it took a lot of time to get there, and it just comes down to dealing with the fact it's going to be hard, right? So work hard at it, and then you're really going to enjoy it when it comes out the right way. So the
100%.
Denzel, man, he's got those fire quotes. He's got fire quotes.
Oh, he does.
He does, yeah,
And like to play on to what you said, like I was a little naive, like when I quit my job and just went full tilt. Like I had already built like a pretty big like online following, like on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, and so I kind of just thought I would go the entrepreneur route, and it'd be like, I don't know, 90 days, and I would replace my full time income, and just like I did not plan it out. I just thought it would just like I'd put in the work and it would come to me. And boy, I was wrong.
yeah,
Um, and so to anybody
yeah,
like thinking about like taking the leap and stuff, plan. Like you need to plan better than I did. And however difficult you think it's going to be, I don't know, times 5 probably. Like it's going to be more of a challenge than you thought it was going to be. But at the same time, like when you build your schedule and you're able to get more time with your wife and your kids, like I think that's what you said, like as far as fulfillment goes, that's where like I'm still not making quite as much money as I was before I jumped into entrepreneurship, but like chasing it and my kids seeing me doing it and like building something for me and my family rather than somebody else has 100% been
yeah,
worth it.
yeah, man. It's a lot easier to put in a lot of effort when it's yours than when it's somebody else's.
Yep.
Um, Especially if the thing
100%.
that you're working on that is yours is actually for people. Like if you know it's for other people, I'm very people motivated. Like if
Yep.
somebody tells me, if I say that I'm going to do some challenge, right? I'll do it for a while. I'll push myself pretty hard. I'm pretty good at starting. Doesn't It's not hard for me to start anything. That's the same thing with
Yep.
you. Like I just kind of dive in and see what happens, right? But when other people are doing it, well, I'm in. I'm in, and I'm definitely going to make sure that my commitment is there so that it's motivating for them, right? I don't want to be the reason that they have an excuse to fall off, right? So
Yep.
I'm going to be all in when it's for other people. So that's what I mean. Is like find whatever you're doing and find a way to make that focal point about others. And if it's about others, it's about loving them, right? In some capacity, it's about loving them,
Yep.
and that's really what God wants out of us in the first place to try to bring that whole circle to faith.
100%. And I feel like that's the perfect like segue. I know everybody like listening to this like isn't a Christian necessarily, but I would like them to be. But second of all,
Yeah,
I think having like some anchor like greater than yourself is
Yeah.
huge in like staying motivated. And we're talking like mental health. Like so many men like struggle with depression and like all this other stuff. And I think when you have like faith as an anchor and the reason why you go to work in the morning and the reason why you're faithful to your wife and there for your children, I think that just amplifies things, 100%. Like, and I've even just noticed from the outside looking in, I feel like you have stepped things up in like a faith perspective. I've seen you talk about it more and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about, and I've even like
Yeah.
really in like the last probably year or two, I've noticed that out of you, and I appreciate it. And like, what's that like journey been like for you?
Um, so very much was faith oriented, thanks to mom and dad, right? For most of my life, and even in college, I had plans of I was understudying to be a pastor, so I was kind of shadowing another pastor because it was something that I wanted to do. Um, and then my obsession, right? I am obsessive, so I get obsessed with one thing and I really chase it. With sports and fitness and things like that, led me down a different route. um, so it was always there, but my relationship with God didn't get didn't get better from college. It actually got kind of straight away. And as it strayed away, it was just my focus on whatever the thing is that I was doing at the time.
Yep.
I've always worked hard, but it would be at whatever I was doing, and I kind of just lost track with my connection to God to work hard. And now I'm coming back into that at this point in my life. One, I'm married. I have a baby, right? There's not as much distraction like there is whenever you're a young male who's, not married at the time, and like you're not completely financially obligated to your significant other, right? So you got a lot of stuff you can do. But once
Yep.
we're married, right? My money is her money and I'm a provider. And so things kind of get dialed in just in that aspect, but it made it a lot easier for me work wise whenever I went through a bad season. And my coaches all know
Yep.
this. So if they ever hear this, they know what happened. I went through this phase of just being drained of empathy. I didn't have more of myself to give. I started to become really distant from my classes, my members, all the people that were there, that this home, this oasis that they have, that they love the gym for. I didn't want to be there. I would work on it at home. I just didn't want to be there because the connection with people, I was drained of empathy. I couldn't hear your problems and be able to like immediately invest myself to help. And I kind of looked into what was going on a couple years ago, right? And I found that it was my distance from God is the reason that I was being drained, right? We have empathy, and it's kind of like a bucket, and we dump it out, but I wasn't refilling that bucket. So I was never getting the things that
Yep.
I needed from God to kind of recharge and go back into it. And once I found that, man, everything has been maximized. Once I realized that it was just my regular conversation, my regular relationship to God that was making me feel so drained, right? Rest in the Father. I was getting no rest in the Father. I believe in
Yep.
God. I'll pray on occasion, you know what I mean? But I wasn't investing in having a relationship with Him. And that's what changed. So that's whenever I made that change and things started becoming awesome, you know what I mean, pretty quickly.
Yep.
Uh, I put a lot more time and effort into my relationship. So that's what changed over the past couple of years.
I love that. And guys, just like he said, like you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that's where dads go wrong at times. I think you have the weight of providing for your family and all this other stuff. And so you just like go, go, go. And like you let your fitness slip, you let your faith slip. You're like trying to provide. So you try to convince yourself you don't have time for your relationship with your wife. And that's when
Yeah,
everything else slips. And so that's when you have to take the time to invest into yourself, and like investing in faith is investing in yourself. I know like getting up a little bit
yeah,
earlier to like read your Bible in the morning seems like such a chore, but when you get like consistent in it, it's like, it's a game changer. And if you're not like, don't consider yourself like a super like religious person, like read Proverbs. And I dare you not to find practical things that are going to make you a better man in Proverbs. There's like relational advice, financial advice, like it's all in there. And it's like whatever, 2,500 years old, and it's still 100% applicable.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a couple of things on what you just said right there. There were reminders of something I would want to say. One, if you're
Yeah.
not if you're not a Christian or a super religious person or anything like that. One, I hate the idea of saying religious person, right? I'm not a fan of
Yep.
religion, right? I'm a
Yep.
big fan of Jesus, right? And I think that religion is what tends to push people away, right? And Jesus,
Yeah.
nothing he did ever pushed anyone away, right? Everything he did was to bring more people in. The concept of religion is that these are the rules that you follow to be closer to God, right? And Jesus is just be close to me just by saying you want to, and then let me handle the rest, right?
Yep.
He's a do for you rather than you do to get to me. And so to that, like
Yep.
I have people on our team when we have these coaches meetings. A lot of our coaches meetings are, yeah, we talk about operation and things like that that are necessary, class function, but the biggest part that we talk about is who we are as a gym. Our slogan is we care, right? Oki Flow Fitness, we care, right? And we say that on a regular basis to people because that's really what we're about. We love you. Our goal is for you to come in the door and just let us have the opportunity to love on you. And if you're trying to look at somebody who is just a perfect model of loving on other people, doesn't matter if you're a Christian, right, or not, there's no way to deny that Christ was alive, right? He's too documented.
Yep.
Every religion that there is, they all recognize who Christ was, and they all say, yes, he was right, but this is right too, right? And then all of those lead into Christ saying, yes, I am right, and I'm the only way, right? So if you just kind of do,
Yep.
you know, deleting things back and forth and it dials back into who Christ is, it's all him, right? In the first place, that's just for Christian base. But if you're just trying to learn how to love people, just study who the guy was. I'm not saying that you got to dive
Yep.
in and believe right off the bat that he was the son of God, but believe that that man loved people more than anyone else and did it at the highest level possible, right? And if you're just trying to follow
Yep.
success, the man was successful at loving people. So follow what he does there, right? And then you're probably going to end up finding God anyways because he has a tendency to do that, right?
100%. I heard somebody on a podcast recently, and I can't remember who it was, but they're like atheist or agnostic. And they said something like, somebody asked them if they could have like dinner with anybody who they'd want to have dinner with. And they said, Jesus. Like they don't believe that he was the son of God, but they're like,
Yeah,
who has ever started a bigger movement than Jesus? Like what a cool guy to
yeah,
talk to. And I just wanted to tell them like, I dare you to get to know him. I dare you, and just see what
yeah.
happens.
And that's the thing is that people, I think that the reason that they don't want to is because they know that something's going to happen,
Yep.
and they're falling in love with their own life, right? They don't want to change their life. They don't want to feel like there's parameters and rules, and it's because they're really
Yep.
overlooking the grace, the just nonstop, uncontrollable amount of grace that we're given, and they're just looking at the
Yep.
rules of what sin is, right? You're going to sin,
Yep.
dude. It's inevitable. It's impossible not to. So don't look at that part and just focus on, let me know more about you. And you're going to end up finding out that this is not this extremely difficult, horribly hard thing to do, right? It's unique nowadays because it's like Christians
Yep.
are fading left and right, or just the amount of Christians.
Yep.
But it's just that we're falling in love with our own life, right? And if you love your life, you'll lose it, right? But if you seek after me, you'll find it. So I think that that simple concept in itself is, if you just look into the guy, he says some stuff that's fire, right? He says some stuff that's top
Yep.
tier, and just follow that.
100%. And as we're kind of finishing this thing out here, I was listening to something recently. It was actually our pastor at church was talking about, even within Christianity, like the divorce rate is still 50%, right? But he said that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
people that claim to be Christians, right? He said
Right.
they did like this big, like huge case study, and it was couples that go to church together weekly, read their Bibles daily, and pray together daily. Like 97% of those marriages are successful.
Yep.
And so, and I mean, and it's like a huge case study. I will hopefully I can find it and put it in the show notes. I don't know that I will, but like, I mean, that's big time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Again, I think that that's a religion versus living like having a relationship with Christ. That the religious side of thing is
100%.
showing up to church, right, and claiming you're a Christian. That's religion. That's not. That's like
Yep.
people say I do this religiously, right? As like a saying. Man, I work out
Yep.
religiously, right? That's them just saying that's their consistency because they believe that that's what you do in religion. The only consistent thing
Yep.
you need to have is just talking to them every day as if you talk to your best friend, right? Talk to
Yep.
them. That's it. It's as simple as that. You're not good at it right now. That's fine, right? There's nothing that's ever started that was immediately you are good at, right? It starts as a discipline and then it leads to devotion, right? It starts off with you just trying really, really hard to keep doing it every day. And then once you've done it long enough, it's like you can't go without it. And it's just like it's the same thing in the fitness aspect, right? If people are having a hard time, I just don't like to work out. It's not going to be easy when you start. It just
Yep.
be disciplined long enough that it turns to devotion. And then all of a sudden I had a lifestyle change. It wasn't a mental switch that happened one day. It happened over those first few days or first few months of discipline. And then all of a sudden you feel the benefits and you want it, right?
Denzel Washington style with the fire. And y'all, listen, if and I think that's the best way to close this out is that his quote that it starts as a discipline and it turns to devotion, and that literally applies to everything else. Like if you want a better marriage, be disciplined and do the things that you know that your wife likes, like serve her, have a servant's heart, and your marriage is going to get better. And it may not be fun at first, but it'll get fun if you
Yeah.
consistently do the things and be disciplined in making your marriage better. And the same thing with working out. It's not fun at first. Be disciplined, but you keep showing up. And then when you eventually get like the fruits of your labor, that's when it gets fun. You just initially have to be disciplined. Mic
Yeah.
drop.
100%. Mic drop.
Dude, uh, dude, thanks so much for joining again today. I feel like this might end up being like a semi-regular thing, and I think it probably should be. Y'all be on the lookout for Kyler. What's your
Yeah.
handle on Instagram?
Coach Kyler Harris.
So Coach Kyler Harris, I think he's going to try to launch a podcast before too long. And I'm saying this on here to put some fire underneath him because I think he should. So follow him on Instagram. Be on the lookout for that because I know if he does it, it's going to be well done and a lot of value. Y'all make sure you try a free 7-day trial of my workout program. Go give Kyler a follow. And thanks
Let's
for
go.
listening today, y'all.